Hey everyone, my name is Christopher Lang, and as some of you may know, I'm the CEO of a startup generative AI company called Optimize AI. Today, I'm here to talk to you about some practical use cases for generative AI in your business if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner. A lot of feedback that I've gotten from people over the couple of months that I've been working with clients and different people, specifically entrepreneurs, small business owners, is that they've heard of artificial AI, they've heard of generative AI, they've played around with ChatGPT, but it's not really for them. They see no real use case for AI in their business or in their startup. And today I'm here to really help you understand that no matter how big or small your business may be, no matter what phase of your business you're in, generative AI can be very, very, very beneficial to what you're doing. So let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, this video today is about enhancing your workday with generative AI and its practical applications for every business professional. So before we really get into that, I want to talk about some of the things that I hope you take away from our video and of our presentation today. And I want you to understand that there really truly is a use case. No matter what you're doing, there's a use case for generative AI in your business today. Not later, not tomorrow, but today, right now, things that you can do to help increase your productivity in your business. I want you to understand that you could transform your routine. I want you to understand that you could boost creativity and that you can make smarter decisions about your already existing data and processes using generative AI. So I really hope that you enjoy what we go over. And as always, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I will always get back to you. So let's jump right in. Now, before we talk about what you can do with generative AI, I feel like it's very, very important that we understand what generative AI is. So every time I've tried to explain what generative AI is, I've always ended up trying, it just becomes out so technical. So I understand, developers will understand, AI experts would understand what I was saying, but normal people who aren't delved into this world of AI have absolutely no idea what I'm saying. So I actually used one of my AI assistants, Sam, to help me say it in a very simplistic way that anyone can understand. And I think this is one of the best explanations I've ever seen of generative AI and what it is. So generative AI is like a smart robot that can make new things like stories, pictures, videos, or even music by learning from lots of examples. It looks at what humans have made before and then tries to make its own versions. And that's spot on. That's perfect. The training data that all of these AI models have been trained on, where all of its knowledge base comes from, are things that humans have already created, whether it be writing, music, imagery, videos. It learned that data from things that humans have already created, and it's been being trained and been trained to create its own versions based on that knowledge, kind of the same way that human beings learn. You learn by seeing examples of what's already been done, and then you put your own flair into it. So now that we have a better understanding of what generative AI actually is, let's talk about some of the base things and the base models that generative AI has. So we have text generation, which I'm sure is what most people are most familiar with when they hear AI. Things like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and you're doing things like writing blogs, maybe some website copy, and generating content in general. And I feel like that is what most people think of AI, and they're done. But in addition to that, we do have image generation. We have audio generation. So that's, you could do sound effects, you can create music, you can do audio voiceovers, you can even replicate your own voice using generative AI so that you could narrate things and you don't have to sit on a camera like I am right now and actually speak, but rather you can type in a script and have an AI avatar of yourself speak on your behalf or narrate over a video. And then you also have video generation. Now, some of these are in their infancy or much not as far along as others. Text generation, I want to say, is the most far along, the furthest along of all of these different types of models. But all of these other models are catching up very, very quickly. Some of the things that you could do with image, audio, and video generation nowadays, it's mind-blowing compared to where it was 6 months ago. So And again, now this just scratches the surface. These are just some of the base things that you can do with generative AI. Some other things that people might not necessarily think about as much that you can do with generative AI with the same models that I just showed you on the screen. You can analyze data. So if you have large data sets, if you have sales data, you can give the AI that data and it can ingest and understand that data and provide feedback for you and help you better understand what you've given it. It can also create documents. So while it can ingest documents and ingest information and be able to help you better understand it, it can also create documents for you. So if you're having a conversation and you're having an AI chatbot or an AI create help you draft a letter, draft a sales email, you can actually have it give you a Word document or a Google document with all of that data formatted that you can then just download and edit yourself. So it can ingest data and it can ingest documents. It can also create documents. It can also understand visual input. And while that seems kind of like a gimmicky thing, I can upload an image with a picture of my son playing with a ball, and the AI will be able to view that image and tell me exactly in great, vast detail what is in that image. And that's a very simple, gimmicky type of use case for vision capabilities. However, some more advanced use case capabilities could be, and it's not necessarily this far along right now, but it's on its way, being able to upload an X-ray or a CT scan and have it analyze what it sees and give a diagnosis based on what it sees, rather than having to have a human being do it who might be having a bad day, who might have missed something. The AI isn't going to miss things. Again, it's quite a ways away from being able to do something like that, but the foundation has been laid and it's set, and there are companies actively working on exactly what I just said. So there's a ton of different use cases for being able to use vision with your generative AI. Another thing that generative AI can do that a lot of people might not have really thought of is perform research. Now, if you happen to be working with an AI model that has internet access, that's fantastic because it'll be able to actually perform web searches, read and analyze and ingest the data, and then create documentation, summary, create whatever it is that you're asking for, and then be able to also cite sources. Now, I know there's been news, college kids are using this to create research papers and do their homework. And there are detectors that are going to be able to detect whether or not something's been written with AI. But if you're using this to just do basic research to give yourself the knowledge you need to put together what it is you're trying to create, this is a great tool for that. Another thing that it could do is simulate scenarios. And now I might be aging myself here. I'm not talking about like the 1980s movie War Game, where it simulated a nuclear war and it turns out it was actually happening. Nothing like that. What I'm talking about with a scenario simulation here is you could have the AI act as, say, a difficult customer and have one of your customer sales reps speak to that AI as if they're speaking to a difficult customer to see how that sales rep would behave in that situation and how they'd act, and then be able to train them to better handle situations like that. So that's what I'm talking about when I say you could simulate different scenarios using generative AI. Another thing is training assistants, and that they kind of go hand in hand with what I was just talking about. But in addition to being able to have it simulate customers and use it in a training manner for that, another thing you could do is if you personally, let's say you're a sales rep and you're really interested in learning more about, say, the Sandler sales method, you could have your AI teach you the Sandler sales method. You can have it give you examples, give you use cases, and then even pretend to be a customer, and you have to sell them using the Sandler sales method, and then have it grade you at the end of that sales call or chat based on how you did utilizing the information that you learned. So it could be used as a very valuable training tool. And that's just talking about sales in one specific scenario. But there's many different scenarios and many different use cases where you could use it for training. You could use it to learn pretty much anything that you want to. And there may be some instances, if you want to learn design, if you want to learn marketing, there may be a lot of visual aspects that it may not be able to necessarily do very well. But what the AI is good at is giving you access to resources you might not have known existed otherwise. It might, if you wanted to do and learn about knitting, it might not be able to physically show you and create videos that give you hand directions on how to knit, but it'll find resources, maybe niche groups that are on the internet, and it'll give you those where it works 10 times faster than digging through a ton of different Google results. So training and assistance is something that I think a lot of people overlook and don't realize you can use generative AI for. Next, we have generating code. Again, it's in its infancy, and I call it its infancy. It's so far advanced. It does better than a lot of developers that are out there. I can tell you sometimes it can code better than me. In my other life, I also own a web development company, and I do write code. And I've used generative AI to help me code more times than I'd like to admit. So coding, and it knows it knows web languages, it knows software languages, it knows pretty much any coding language that exists in the world today and can help you with that code. It can help you debug code. So, and then finally, learning and understanding. Depending on the model you're using, ChatGPT just recently released a memory feature. It's something we're actually building into Optimize AI tool suite. I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling you that, but it's something we're working on building into Optimize AI tool suite as well, where the AI can actually learn from your interactions and determine what it deems important to remember about you and what it doesn't. And as always with any of those, there'll be safeguards. You'll be able to see what the information the AI knows about you, tell it not to remember things, tell it to remember things. But just the fact that it can learn just like a person through interaction with you and get to know more about you so that it can better help and better assist in what you're doing, it's just mind-boggling. So, with that said, I want to talk a little bit about where AI is right now and where it's headed. Because I do hear a lot that people think AI is very gimmicky. It's something that's only going to be around for a short time. It's a fad. It's never actually going to go anywhere. And I have to say, I highly, highly disagree with that. I feel that AI right now is in the same place the internet was in the early 90s. People thought the internet was gimmicky and it was a fad and it was going to go away. And who's going to go use their computer every single time they want to look something up? Fast forward 30-something years, and people can't exist in life without the internet nowadays. You're watching this video on the internet. I used the internet to learn how to do what I'm doing. The internet is such an invaluable, it sets alarms, it sets reminders. The internet is so ingrained into our society. Society as a whole would collapse without it. And I feel like that's where AI is going to be headed. That's just me. That's just my opinion. And I'm sure others share the same opinion. But getting into and learning about AI and how to use it and how to incorporate it into your brand, into your small business right now is the absolute best time. It would be like learning the internet when it first came out, learning how to use it, how you can use it to benefit your business and everything else in your life. Again, things will develop, things will get better. There'll be easier methods, but knowing how to use it at the start, embracing it and adopting AI at the start, I think is only going to be beneficial to you in the long run. Again, my opinion, others may disagree, but I'm telling you, you're looking at the early stages of an AI revolution that hasn't, a revolution in technology that hasn't been seen since the beginning of the internet. Calling it here. Quote me on it if you'd like. So now, let's finally move down and let's talk about some stuff you can do with generative AI. Now, we're going to start with text generation, which is kind of the default mode people think of, as I've said, when they think about AI, especially generative AI, things like ChatGPT. The first thing that I have on my list here is something that I actually, it's what I use AI the most for right now. And that's brainstorming ideas. Being able to have an idea that you really need to hash out or you have a thought. A lot of times, like for me, if I have an idea that's AI specific, not only do I need someone that has a similar or the same knowledge as I do about the topic, but I need someone who's readily available and can work with me when I need to work with, or when I need the work to be done. And AI can accomplish that because AI is relatively an expert in pretty much anything. It has the knowledge to pull from in pretty much anything. It is, after all, a very smart computer. So when I need to brainstorm an idea, I can pitch the idea to an AI, to an AI assistant, to whatever model I happen to be working with. And there's been times when I've thrown out ideas and I've gotten viewpoints and feedback that I might not have ever thought of otherwise. Now, again, if I was talking to someone like my business partner or, someone else who has a similar knowledge as I do in the subject I'm talking about, sure, that viewpoint might have come up, but they weren't readily available right then and there when I needed to be able to do that brainstorming. I typically work very late at night. Not many people are up at 2 o'clock in the morning and want to just chat. Now, project management or project planning and process outlines. So let's say, for instance, you want to come up with a marketing campaign, a sales pitch. But you don't really know where to start. That's not what you do. You sell items, you make items, you want to sell them online, and you're not really sure where to get started. Generative AI is really, really good at putting together that process, that outline of what the next step is, what the step after that is. So if you're looking for a way to really visualize and see what all the different facets of what you're trying to do and what your task is, generative AI is a great place to go. You tell it what you're trying to accomplish and ask it for an outline of the steps, and it'll clearly lay it out with details if you ask it for it. Then once you have your outline and your process, you can go ahead and ask it to start developing out each of those different steps one by one, or you can go back to your team with that outline and have them start. Next, we have training and development. We did talk a little bit about training and development in a little while ago, and I'll just touch on that quickly again. Using the knowledge that the AI already has, that it's been trained on, to learn new things or to get information that you might not have easily been able to find otherwise is invaluable. You can even use generative AI as a search engine of sorts. So rather than going to a Google or a Bing and saying, how do I do this? You could simply ask the AI, and there's a good chance that the AI already has the answers, and it'll be able to provide you step-by-step instructions on how to get it or how to do exactly what it is that you asked. And if it doesn't know, or it can't give you those step-by-step instructions, it'll most likely give you a source where you can get that data. So it cuts out the time of having to go dig through tons and tons of different search results. Writing assistants. So this is the one that, again, everyone kind of thinks of. You can use it to write blogs. You can use it to write website copy, papers, books, and anything where writing is involved. You could use generative AI to help. Pay very close attention to the wording there. You can use generative AI to help. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Help. So summarizing content. Let's say you have a massive instruction manual on how to use let's say your car. We're going to use your car as an example. You get that big, thick instruction manual on how to do everything in your car. But now let's say you have a PDF version of that instruction manual that you found online. You can upload that PDF over to the AI and say, all you want to do is you just need to know what type of oil filter or what type of oil the car takes. You can upload that PDF to the AI and then ask it, what oil filter do I need? What type of oil does the car make? And rather than you having to sift through and dig through that massive book of data, the AI will do it in minutes, seconds even, and then just give you the answer. So another use case, let's say you're part of a really long email chain. You don't want to read every single detail in that email chain, but what you can do is you can copy that email chain into the AI and ask it to summarize and just highlight key points. Then, if you see a key point that you want more details on, ask it to expand on that specific key point so that you get the detail that you need. It'll probably even tell you, hey, here's a detailed explanation of this key point based on the information you've given me. Go to page 27, paragraph 3 to start reading about that. So it'll even tell you exactly where to go if you want to read the original content yourself. Template creation. Now, in this, I'm not talking about it'll build a website template. There are AI systems that will help you do that and even put together a primitive AI or an AI website template for you. What I'm talking about here are things like, let's say you're trying to write a resume. You could use generative AI to create a resume template designed and then give you just areas where you fill in your own information. It could be used for creating a template for a legal document, for anything where we're having a template, a sales pitch, anything where having a template would come in handy. You can ask the AI to create you the template and just give you a place to fill in your own data. Customer service simulations. I know we talked about this already, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but just allowing your customer service reps to chat with customers that in whatever manner you choose. You can have a nice customer, an angry customer, a overzealous customer, a customer who knows nothing, and just have the AI simulate that scenario for your CRM to interact with. And depending on the system you're using, if it's something custom built, they don't even necessarily need to know that they're chatting with an AI. They could believe they're chatting with a live human for their training purposes, and then you can give them proper training on how to handle certain situations before you put them on with a live client. Drafting legal documents, I touched on that. So one of the places where I use this the most are things that are kind of boilerplate and the same with some modifications, no matter where you go. So website terms of services, for instance, you feed it a base template or have it create a base template for terms of services. And then you say, hey, ask me questions that would be relevant in order to go into this. And it'll ask you, what tracking software do you use? What do you store customer data? Is the customer data secure? You answer those questions, and then it'll build your own personalized answers into the terms of services or whatever document that you're trying to create. So now, one thing I'm going to say, just I feel like I have to say this: if you're drafting legal documents using AI, always, always go and have a real lawyer review it before you use it. Do not just take the AI at face value. Please do not do that. You could find yourself in a lot of legal trouble if you just assume sometimes. And then finally, we have marketing and sales campaign creation. So like I said up where we're talking about the outlines, the AI is very knowledgeable in pretty much everything. So if you're trying to come up with a marketing or sales campaign, you could feed the AI some data, what it is you're trying to do, what the sales campaign is about, what your business is, and any information that you would have that you would say normally give to an assistant or an employee who you're going to outsource to do this, or someone whose job it is. And the AI will now help walk you through every step of the way what you need to do for that marketing campaign, for that sales campaign, rather than having to go out and hire an expensive hourly freelancer, for instance. So that's just some of the stuff that you could do with text generation. There's so much more. These are just some of the core examples that I wanted to give today. Here's an important note, and here's where I said I want to be very clear about the word help, because generative AI, it's not currently suited to completely take the place of people, not in any way. It should really be used as a guide and an assistant. In its current state, it's best used as a tool to increase your productivity and save enormous amounts of both time and money. Generated content's best suited as a starting point rather than a final result. So what that means is, let me put it this way. So let's say you wanted to generate a blog. You want to write a blog. You want to write a book. You want to write. We're going to just use content generation as an example here. The first draft that you get back from the AI might contain facts that might not necessarily be true, might not be cited. It may. The writing style might not be correct. It may not sound like you. It may be very, very AI heavy. It may sound very professional when you're trying to get a friendly tone of voice conveyed. So when you're using AI to create anything, whether it be code, writing templates, anything you're creating with AI, you want to be able to use that as a starting point, as a base. It's like, so let's let's go with the blog example. I'm writing a blog, and this has happened. I know what the subject is. I know what the base thing I want to write about is, and I'm just staring at that little flashy cursor. I'm just staring at it because I don't know even what the first sentence of my blog should be. So I'm staring at it and it's driving me nuts. And it could take days before I can get just a coherent blog article on paper so that I could post it. With AI, I can give it my subject, my heading, even have it help me create a heading, and it'll give me a rough draft right then and there. That is a great base for me to then either collaborate with the AI and have it make adjustments, make edits, change the tone of voice, make it longer, make it shorter, cite sources, things like that. Or it's a good base for me to just use to start writing from and make my own edits, because it got me from that stupid little flashing cursor to something with substance that I can work with. And that right there, using it as a tool to assist you, not to replace you or to replace people, but using generative AI as a tool to assist you is exactly what it should be used for. So now moving on, we did text generation. So now we're going to talk a little bit about image generation. So I want to call it a year ago, the images that were generated were not very good at all. But nowadays, and you also had to be very, very detailed. You had to construct a detailed prompt with every minute detail you wanted to see in the image to get anything even remotely usable. Nowadays, and like in this example here, all I did was type in a chat GPT. I create an image of a little boy watching a fire truck drive by. Here's an image of a little boy watching a fire truck drive by. So not only did it generate the image for me, it also decided that this little boy should be filled with excitement and wonder. So, great image. Now, not necessarily photorealistic, but now I didn't tell it I wanted a photorealistic image, to be fair. So now, in this one, I said, create a photorealistic black and white portrait of an old man. And it gave me exactly that. That is a photorealistic black and white portrait of an old man. If you were to give me this and an actual portrait of an old man that was taken with a camera, I don't know if I would be able to tell the difference, and I'm a photographer. So the things you could generate with generative AI in the image generation realm is just getting so crazily good. I don't think crazily is a word, but we're going to go with it. It's getting crazily good. Now let's talk about some practical use cases where you might actually use generative AI image generation in your brand or your business. So if you own a brand or business today, you have to be on the internet. It's unavoidable. And in part of being on the internet is having a website, your social media presence. You might have physical handouts, physical flyers. You know, all of the different reasons you might need imagery if you're running a brand or a business. So using generative AI, it might not be able to completely take away the need for a photographer or for stock photography, but it can take away some of it, which is massively beneficial. So just think stock footage for your website. You just need a picture of two people with a handshake. You think of social media posts, just some imagery to go along, a blog image, YouTube thumbnails, things where you might need imagery that would otherwise take you either a lot of money and time to have a professional photo shoot done, or just a lot of time digging through endless amounts of stock photography, and then also the cost of paying for that stock image. Generative AI can help alleviate a lot of that. And again, it may not be perfect, but it is getting better by the day. And there's so many different models. This particular one that I used in my example is ChatGPT and OpenAI's DALL-E 3. Google has its own image generation. There's Midjourney, there's Stable Diffusion. There are so many different models out there where you can try out image generation, and a lot of them you can try out for free. There's a ton of apps out there that use some of these models in order to help you generate images. You could take selfies and then simply, have it create AI avatars of yourself. There's a ton that you could do with image generation, but from the business standpoint, just think of all the times you've needed imagery. This can help. Next, I want to talk about video generation. So video generation is still in the younger infancy than some of the other things that we've talked about. But the example that I want to show you today is from a model that isn't publicly available yet. And it is something that we will be building into Optimize AI as soon as it is. And so video generation has existed for a little while, and like when it first came out, it's one of those little like 1920s little flip 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 fast little picture movements. That's the kind of video that you got. It wasn't very great quality. It has come a long way since then, but this is OpenAI's new video generation model called Sora. And let me just show you. This is going to put a lot of videographers and animators out of business. So this was a simple prompt saying a monster playing with the flame from a candle. You can't, it looks like something that came out of a Pixar movie. Let me play this again. If someone just showed me this and didn't tell me it was AI generated, I would honestly assume a Pixar animator created this clip. Now, that's great for animation. Okay, so that's great. But now let's say we wanted something that was more B-roll footage for a video we were putting together. Well, in this example, we have a panning drone view of a busy market in Lagos, Nigeria. Same thing. If I was watching this video and I did not know it was AI generated, I would assume a professional videographer created this video. The movement of the people, the panning of the camera, the movement of the traffic in the background over here is so insane that this could legitimately put a lot of people out of work. And again, this is in its infancy. This isn't even publicly available. I'm sure it will become publicly available, but as of right now, you can't generate videos this good on your own. There's a few that you can generate videos from. I'll have some examples of places you can go to try out a lot of this at the end of this presentation. But for now, I want to watch this again. Like, it just looks so real. And if you're really, really staring at it and you try to pick it apart, I'm sure you could see a few nuances in here that you might be able to pick out that it's an AI generated video. But at first glance, as you're watching it, just like you really would any B-roll clip, for instance, you'd have absolutely no idea. And B-roll footage is a fantastic use case for generative AI video creation for your business or your brand. Another use case, which we're a long ways away from this, but let's say you are a storyteller, you're a story writer, you write children's books, and you want to be able to create an animation video to go along with your story. You could feed the AI your story and have it generate every single scene in an animated cartoon Pixar quality style. The use cases for this are, I feel like within the next 10 years, you'll be able to use generative AI to feed it a script and have it create a full-length feature movie, and it will be indistinguishable from using real actors. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I believe it's possible. And I believe in the next 10 years, it'll be something that we'll be seeing fully AI generated feature-length movie theater movies. Again, quote me on it. 10 years. What are we at? We're 2024. By 2034, if not sooner, I feel like that'll be a thing. So next, I want to move into data analysis. And I know I'm going to touch very quickly on data analysis. I'm going to touch very quickly on one other. It's something I want to call out because it's something I personally use generative AI for a lot. So one of the first things is, I know I've mentioned it, is you can upload and analyze spreadsheets. So if you have complex sales data, let's say you download last year's sales data from your e-commerce store, and you can upload that sales data, that spreadsheet, to your AI and then ask it questions like, hey, what was my average order volume? What were the average amount of items each purchaser purchased when they, did a checkout in my store? What was my top selling product? And now I know there's a lot of reports that can get you that data, but a lot of times there's a need for custom reporting when you run an e-commerce store, but the ability to just upload the raw data into an AI and then ask it questions speeds up that process exponentially. Next, data cleanup. So let's say you have a kind of messy spreadsheet. There's a lot of duplicates. You need to merge records. You can upload that messy spreadsheet to an AI, give it some instructions, and then have it spit you out a clean data set. Again, just like with the generative text AI, it might not be perfect. You're going to need to review that data, but the same way you'd have to review that data as if you paid someone to do it. While you want to assume they did it correctly, you're always going to review the work if that's your job. After that, predictive modeling. So you say, let's say you feed it 5 years of sales data. You upload 5 years of your sales data from your e-commerce store. You could ask it, based on my current trends, what could a potential future 2-year projection look like? And it will create you a predictive model based on your current data, including visual charts and graphs in an Excel spreadsheet. Next, it can write custom SQL or database queries. Again, I'm using a lot of e-commerce here because it's a world that I live in and work in. So let's say on your e-commerce store, there's custom data you want to pull out of your database, live data from current daily sales. Rather than downloading spreadsheets and reports, you could simply have the AI write you a SQL database query to pull that data down. Now you can upload that data to your AI in order to have it do an analysis or whatever it is you need to do with that data. But writing custom database queries, it saves a ton of time and money, especially the more complex you get and the more complex your database is, the more complex your prompts have to be. Next, we have generate Excel documents with visual charts and graphs. I touched on that, but if you just feed the AI data and tell it, hey, I'd like a chart that shows sales growth over time, it will create that and then give you a new Excel file and say, here you go. Now, alternatively, if you prefer to do that yourself, it'll also help you write custom macro scripts to use in Microsoft Excel. So you can tell it what you're trying to do, give it some base information, or even give it your spreadsheet, and it'll give you the macro and even tell you, if you're not sure, where to go to implement that macro and how to use it. So, yep. So data analysis it's something that a lot of people don't realize that you can do with generative AI, which is why I wanted to call it out, because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, especially small business owners, there are a lot of data points that they might not even realize are important, valuable information to know. And this is a very easy way to be able to get that data, is by using generative AI. Next, I'm not going to talk very long on this one. I wanted to call out specifically generate code. And now, again, since I'm not going to speak very long on this, I'm just going to leave you with this cool little matrixy animation here. So code generation, very similar to text generation. It's something where it can help you, it can supplement some knowledge gaps. For instance, I'm a developer, but I'm primarily a front-end developer. I can take things and make them look pretty on the page. But sometimes you have to make things do stuff in order for it to be a functioning system. And that's where I personally use generative AI, because that's not my strong suit. Database interactions and physical backend functionality isn't what I excel in. However, generative AI has helped me write thousands of different functions for thousands of different projects that I would have had to hire someone to do otherwise, that I would have had to have more staff otherwise in order to accomplish. So just the fact that it was able to speed up the process. And now, same thing as generative AI or the text generation. If I want to generate some code, it really, really helps if you have a core understanding of, coding logic. The same way, if you want generative AI to create you like a blog article, it helps to have an understanding of basic sentence structure so that you know if the answer is right. But to its credit, I've generated code with generative AI. I've told it sometimes I found things right away where I'm like, hey, this won't work, and here's why, because I didn't give it all of the reference that it needed. But other times I've taken the code and I've implemented it and it didn't work, and I took the error message that I received, gave it to the AI. The AI then came back and said, oh, you know what? That's right. Let me change this, that, add this, and now try it. And then it fixed the issue. So it will also help you debug and troubleshoot coding, as well as help you create it. So wanted to call it out. If you are a developer, even if you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur, even if you want to build your website using something like Wix or Squarespace or Snapsite, you're going to eventually need to do some sort of coding. So it's very, very good for, can you help me change the color of this button from red to orange? Here's the button code. Things like that, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, it's just going to give you proper code the first time, because that's very simplistic coding. So where can you try this out today? That's my company. So I'm obviously going to call us out first, and you could try pretty much everything we talked about today at Optimize AI. Image generation is coming, I promise. Video generation, not available yet. But everything else that we've talked about, from the data analysis to working with assistants, you can try out. You can head right over to optimizeai.io. We have tons of different pre-trained virtual assistants that will help you. We have Sam, that's the virtual assistant that I spoke of earlier, the AI assistant. We have sales assistants, marketing assistants. I have one in here called Ethan. His name is Ethan, and he's a devil's advocate, and he's used to just bounce ideas off of. So if you give it an idea, his goal, the only goal of that AI, is to pick your idea apart until it's flawless. So really like working with him. But marketing assistants, there's even the name is Panther AI, and it's a trading bot. It can do real-time technical analysis of stocks. Tons of different assistants pre-trained for very specific use cases, all tailored to entrepreneurs and small business owners. Next, we have specific tools, idea generators, content creators. One of the things, some of the tools right now, it'll be implemented into all of them soon. But if you use the content creator, you can actually choose whether you want the content to be created using GPT-4 from OpenAI, that's what you get with ChatGPT, or Google Gemini Pro, which is Google's generative AI model. So you can actually pick and choose which model you want to use to create the content, compare them, and see what the results are between the two different models. We will also be adding new models very soon. Again, don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that, but I did. Next, a couple other places where you could try stuff out. You have your obvious ChatGPT somewhere over there. Chat.openai.com. You have Google Gemini at gemini.google.com. Those are both chats. There's some free versions that are meh. They also have some paid versions. And then you also have Runway ML if you want to try out the current iteration of kind of where video generation is today. These are kind of the three base ones. If you do want to hear of any more, if you do want to talk about any specific use cases for you, for your business, and you want to get in touch, here's how you do it. Optimizeai.io. You could go to our website. You could hit our contact form. You can also sign up and try out our tool suite. I'm sure if you're watching this video somewhere, if we do have a promo going on, sometimes we have free months, sometimes we have discounts. So take a look around wherever you're viewing this. If you see a promo code, great. If not, really, it starts out at only $25 a month. So it's not very expensive to begin with, and you get a lot with it. Then you can also just send an email, info@optimizeai.io. And finally, you can give us a call. You can also check out our socials on pretty much every platform. We are at Optimize AI Official. If you made it this long, if you're still watching, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you got a lot of valuable information out of this. Like, share, subscribe, all those things I'm supposed to remind you to do. If you want to see more presentations and more content like this going forward, we will post all of these on YouTube. I'm sure you're watching this on YouTube right now if you're still here. Christopher Lang, Optimize AI. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day.